The Red Hollow Inn stands at the edge of town, its once grand facade now cracked and weathered. The neon sign flickers erratically, casting unsettling shadows on the empty parking lot. The air is thick with the scent of mildew and old wood, and a creeping fog clings to the ground. The dimly lit lobby has outdated floral wallpaper peeling at the edges, and the receptionist, an older woman with sunken eyes, watches with an unnerving stillness. The light above the counter buzzes, its glow weak and sickly. Did you ever hear about those places that just don't feel right? Like the air is heavier, the silence is too thick, and your instincts scream at you to leave? I never believed in that kind of thing, until I stayed at the Red Hollow Inn. It was a last-minute work trip, and every other hotel in town was booked. The Red Hollow Inn was old, practically falling apart, but it had one available room, room 306. The receptionist hesitated before handing me the key. "Don't leave the door. Open too long," she muttered. At the time, I laughed it off. Big mistake. The hallway leading to room 306 is narrow, the faded carpet worn down in places to reveal splintered wooden boards. The dim sconces flicker, as if struggling to stay alive. The door to room 306 is stiff, and when it finally swings open, a wave of stale air rushes out. Inside, the room is unremarkable but suffocatingly still. The bed is covered in a heavy, dust-laden comforter, and an old wooden desk sits under a yellowed lampshade. The TV, a boxy relic from the past, hums softly with static interference. The corners of the room remain stubbornly dark, even as the bedside lamp flickers weakly. The room was strange. It looked normal enough. A bed, a desk, an old TV. But something felt wrong. The air was stale, like it hadn't been breathed in for years. The walls seemed too close, and no matter how I adjusted the lamps, the corners stayed dark. But I was exhausted, so I locked the door, crawled into bed, and fell asleep. The air grows colder, thick and damp like a basement long forgotten. The room seems smaller, the walls closing in. The silence is unnatural, an oppressive void broken only by the faint ticking of an unseen clock. The closet door, which had been firmly shut, now stands slightly ajar, revealing an inky darkness deeper than the unlit room. A sense of something unseen, lurking beyond the threshold, fills the air. The temperature plummets further, and an unnatural static charge makes the hairs on the back of the neck stand on end. I woke up freezing. The air was thick, like trying to breathe through wet cotton. My skin prickled. I reached for my phone to check the time, 3:07 a.m., but the screen flickered and died in my hands. That's when I noticed it. The closet door was open. I was sure I had closed it before bed. I sat up, my pulse hammering. The darkness inside was absolute. No reflection from the streetlights, no glow from the TV's standby light. Just black. The kind of black that makes your mind conjure up shapes that might not be there. Then, the sound came. A faint, raspy whisper. Too soft to make out the words, but the tone was unmistakable. It was coming from inside the closet. Shadows shift in the dim corners, distorting as if moving independently of the light. The whispering grows more distinct, layered, echoing from unseen mouths. The wooden floor groans, bending under unseen weight, the sound creeping closer with each breath. The air hums with an unnatural vibration, making the walls seem to pulse faintly. The closet looms open, its darkness expanding, swallowing the last traces of ambient light. A sharp chill presses against my skin, heavy and paralyzing. I grab my phone, shaking it, willing it to turn on. Nothing. My hands felt numb, and a pressure settled on my chest like I was being watched. The whispering grew louder, layered, like more than one voice was speaking at once. Then came the creaking, slow, deliberate, like footsteps across the wooden floor inside the closet. I bolted out of bed and lunged for the door, but my fingers fumbled against the lock. The air in the room was different now, thicker, electric. I felt something shift behind me, closer than it should have been. I yanked the door open, stumbling into the dimly lit hallway, gasping for breath. The hallway outside is unchanged, except for one glaring detail. Where room 306 should be, there is nothing but a seamless, unbroken wall. The wallpaper is old and faded, but there is no indication a door was ever there. The air in the corridor is still, suffocatingly silent. The receptionist remains at her post, her gaze empty and resigned, as though she has seen this happen before. The atmosphere hums with an invisible presence, and from beyond the wall, a distant, mocking whisper seeps through, curling around the edges of reality. Receptionist was still at the desk, watching me with wide, tired eyes. "You left the door open too long, didn't you?" she whispered. I tried to speak, to demand an explanation, but she only shook her head. "No one stayed in 306 for years. It disappears when it takes someone." I turned back, expecting the door to be there again. Some kind of weird hallucination, a trick of the old building. But no, the room was gone, and the last thing I heard as I backed away was a faint whisper from behind the wall. "Come back, we're not done playing yet."